Welcome to the Orchard Hard Drive. Dear Diary, our day started in the home of a ranger in the dark wood named Sealgair. He joined us for breakfast, his long black hair covering his extremely pale face, and you could see the red glow from his eyes as he looked down to eat. Twayblade finished his toast and had a sip of tea. Then, without looking at Sealgair, he asked, "Did you know where this gateway was?" Sealgair shook his head. He said he wouldn't know anything about that kind of thing. He said he was sure all the old gateways were long gone, all destroyed. I told him I was from Earth and needed to get home. He said he was sorry, but he couldn't help. Then he stood up and told us to get ready to leave. There was no time for nonsense about gateways, all that was all long gone. Time to move on and also leave the woods. He was busy. Gwyneth frowned. I could see her open her hand with the gauntlet on, and the eyeball appeared. It pointed west this time. She said it must be working. There's something there. She told Sealgair how when she thought of a way to get home, it pointed here. Sealgair gasped. He said it was the seeking eye, the enchanted gauntlet, he exclaimed. He walked over for a closer look. This was it, all right. Old tech. Whoa, I never thought I'd see it again, he said. I once saw it many years ago, being worn by the magic user who created it. He paused, then sighed. So, basically you're saying there is a gateway here. Gwyneth nodded. The seeking eye is never wrong, he said. Exasperated, he said I would help us through the city and try and find it. But, he warned, the city was still dangerous. While the giant creatures may not attack certain parts, there were still lots in the city to be wary of. We got supplies ready and headed out. Gwyneth looked at her gauntlet and it pointed west. So west is where we were headed. Sealgair saw it pointed west and said to himself something about that's where they used to be, and how he hoped it wasn't there. I tried to ask what he meant. He started to talk, but said it was a long story. Dear Diary, it's a little later, and we're making our way through the city. That mist is everywhere, like in the wild area. You never forget you're in a dark wood. The giant trees surround you and totally fill the sky wherever you look. Earlier, in the distance, I thought I could hear the whir of machines. I asked Sealgair, and he said there was some machinery left. It's some weird things that just seem to run all the time, non-stop. Huge machinery. He had no clue what they did or how they worked. I didn't want to know. He said there were a few things in the city he just didn't want to know about. Clonk asked what had happened. Sealgair snapped at Clonk. How he just said he didn't want to talk about it. It was 1,000 years ago. Everyone who had hanged in it was long gone. The city was lost. It's over. Move on. Twayblade got angry and said how Clonk just asked what we all wanted to know. Sealgair sighed and said it was fine. Want him to know. It's the knowing that's the tough part. We seem to collectively decide to leave it. Dear Diary, Sealgair was right about the city being dangerous. We were resting for a bit when suddenly a vine wrapped itself around Twayblade. It pulled him up into the air and squeezed him. Gwyneth took her sword to it and slashed the vines, cutting Twayblade's own. He gasped and said it wasn't enough. The roots, he yelled. We must get the roots. More vines burst out from the ground and tried to pick each of us up. Sealgair clicked his fingers and flames appeared on the vines. Gwyneth slashed the vines more towards the bottom. Then Twayblade, after getting back on his feet, fired a ball of lightning at the base. It was gone. Clonk said this place was too dangerous to ever rest. We kept moving. Later, Clonk was looking through his bag. He said to me how all he had were just some food and a sleeping bag. No weapons, nothing to defend ourselves with. What use was he in this situation? I told him I had nothing either. He was more useful because he understood historical architecture. That made him smile a little. But I know what he meant. I felt like a fool back there, just standing around while others did the work. Dear Diary, we arrived at a destroyed building. Gwyneth's gauntlet is pointing right here. Somewhere in this building, there's a way home for me. Sealgair said this is what he was afraid of. He said how this building was part of why the city was destroyed. He said he'd never been inside it. He just knew of and then stopped. We knew not to press him more for information. Twayblade put his hand on Sealgair's shoulder and said how he didn't have to continue. Sealgair shook his head and told him that we would need his help if we were going to get through. That it was fine. He'd be fine. We found huge steel doors at the entrance. They stayed shut all this time. Twayblade put his hand out. It glowed for a moment and the doors opened slowly. We made our way inside. That's where we are now, just looking around here on the first floor. Clonk said this building would have many levels down. He found an entrance to a stairwell, but we said we would rest here for a bit. Gwyneth said we could make camp and take turns keeping watch during the night. So it's my turn to keep watch. Won't lie, this place is creepy. I hear all kinds of sounds in the distance. Who knows what kind of things live in these walls, hidden away.